Hello, my name is Josh Durham, and I will be talking about the implications of objectification in video games. So the core argument is that the objectification of women in video games has been occurring for over 30 years. This steady trend can lead to many real-life problems, such as greater rape myth acceptance and self-objectification. In essence, we view women in this objectified manner, and it creates an environment and a culture of what beauty should look like, and it's often over-sexualized, and can lead to greater implications down the line. I'll be using the objectification theory to go through this. The objectification theory is when someone is viewed and judged as an object or less than human. Often this is seen in the sexualization of women as a body or collection of body parts, instead of viewing them for the content of their character or their mind, as they should be, but instead they're viewed as an object or a prize of some kind. Sexual objectification of women is often seen in our media and culture. This takes place heavily in TV shows and movies, and of course, video games as well. Many times, women are, they're not primary characters, and they're often, portrayed as being damsels in distress or, in need of rescue in some way. Sexualization of women has long been a part of video games. Even in much older, more rudimentary games, that had objectified characters as well, like Lara Croft there in the bottom left. Even though that's not even the oldest version of her, but still heavily sexualized for how old the game is. In the study by Lynch et al., it studied female characters in video games from 1983 to 2014. The study found that there was a pretty steady amount of sexualized characters throughout the entire history. It also varied based on the genre. Usually, the more action adventure type genres had more sexualized characters. Typically the more violent or action-packed genres, more advertised towards men, had more sexualized characters. And oftentimes these female characters were secondary or not even playable at all, and they're more just to look at. For example, Quiet there on the bottom right, she's from Metal Gear Solid. She's obviously heavily sexualized just based on her outfit alone. She doesn't do much in the game. She snipes some people, but you can't play as her or anything. She's more just to look at. And in the study by Mills, when they gave individuals the freedom to create their own avatar, individuals usually made them in the stereotypical idea of what beauty is for women. Usually large breasts, large backside, scantily clad clothes to accent these features. But overall, there's clearly a large amount of examples of sexualized, objectified characters in video games. So viewing these objectified characters can have a much bigger impact than people may think. There's very many real and potentially harmful effects that can come from it. In a study by Fox et al., they looked at some of the possible implications of viewing these sexualized characters and what impact they have on the viewers, specifically focusing on how it may impact sexual objectification and rape myth acceptance. The study had women view these sexualized characters, and then they did in fact have a greater belief in rape myth acceptance and self-objectification after viewing these characters, which is pretty mind-blowing to think about. That just from viewing these simple characters or avatars, that they could have a greater belief in something so terrible with such a dark implications. But I think a lot of people might write it off as oh, it's just a video game, right? Because at its core, it's a video game and it's just it's meant for fun, right? But after viewing it for so long and having these many characters, it can have real implications later on down the line. But in the Van den Bosch et al. Study, they also did this for adolescents and for male and female, and they both, male and female, had greater self-objectification after viewing these sexualized avatars and characters, which I think is kind of surprising, but nonetheless. Obviously, this is a dark trend that can harm countless individuals. And self-objectification and rape myth acceptance. Obviously viewing yourself as an object, is a terrible thing and should never happen, should never be done. But it does, and it can lead to greater insecurity about someone's appearance, and they can take drastic measures, whether it be unhealthy or bad diet habits or eating habits in general, or even surgery. That can all come from self-objectification and feeling that you're not good enough based on your appearance. And also, obviously, the rape myth acceptance is terrible on its own and kind of speaks for itself. But this has been going on in the gaming community for too long. There are not enough games with strong female leads that aren't overly sexualized, and they're definitely not equally represented in video games and in the community itself. But even when it comes to producing these games and making them, there was no. They did the study in Lynch. They studied and they showed that there was no correlation between the success of a video game and the amount of sexualized characters. So it's really something that doesn't need to be done. If your game's good enough on its own, it'll be fine. It doesn't need these sexualized characters. It's just not something that should happen anymore, and it doesn't need to be done. But anyways, and there's some references. And then this is just a really stupid meme that I saw the other day that has nothing to do with anything I just said, but it's about Mario, so I thought I'd just throw it in here for fun. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a good day.